Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah, and I am joined by your favorite guest host, the one and only Amy O'Connor.
Hey, what's up? Great to be back.
Good to have you back. I was about to rip through your resume, but maybe I'll have you do it. Coaching, athletic training, fandom. Why don't you do them all?
Fandom. Should we start with fandom? Because that's where I...
Sure.
Yeah, that's where my love of football came from, obviously, from fandom. Big Man United fan since I could walk, probably. Super happy that we eventually got it going on the women's side, even though we are continuing to treat them like second-class citizens. Not my favourite thing. The men are not doing super great either, so not a great time to be a Man United fan, but the women are keeping me going for sure. Over here, was a huge Gotham fan. This season I feel like it's going to be really rough for us, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll hold on to some hope.
Former season ticket holder who then switched her season tickets to the Liberty, understandably so.
Yes.
But I feel like we talked about that on a previous episode, maybe a year or two ago, with how season ticket holders were treated at Gotham. But so we can move on from there.
Totally.
Coaching experience?
Coaching has been a passion of mine since I was 15. I started coaching when I was 15 in England, and I went to college, which is an extension of high school in England, and did all of my coaching certifications courtesy of the UK government, so big shout out to them. I got my all the way up to UEFA B license, and then was fortunate enough to be employed by an American company, came over here, fulfilled the American dream. If that still exists anymore, I don't know.
Did it ever?
Did it ever, yeah. Fulfilled the American dream, eventually ended up playing collegiate soccer, which was great. Then got back into my coaching for a little bit longer. Now I'm the director of coaching, director of football for my women's team over here. We have two really great women's teams and do that for fun. That's my side project.
And also have a lot of medical knowledge about the human body as it pertains to athletics and soccer.
Yes, my day job is as an assistant athletic director and an athletic trainer. And I get to deal with a lot of children complaining about their injuries, but it's fun. It's a good place to be, and it keeps things interesting. We'll say that.
All right. Well, so we've got Champions League, WSL, and NWSL all wrapped into this episode, so let's get into it. Let's start with Champions League, because Leg 2 of the quarterfinals kicks off on Wednesday. That's today, if you're listening on the day of the drop, and Thursday. Wednesday, we have 2 games. Thursday, we have 2 games. So let's just go through all 4 of these games and talk through kind of what we think is going to happen in Leg 2. So first game on Wednesday is Lyon hosting Bayern Munich. Lyon is up 2-0 on aggregate, coming home for Leg 2. I think this is a pretty done deal. I think this is going to be Lyon's because it's going to take a hell of a performance from a Bayern Munich that I just really don't think they have in them.
I'd have to agree with you. I don't think that this is going to be an upset. I can't see Bayern Munich going to Lyon and winning 3-0. I can't even see them going there and winning 2-0 and forcing extra time and penalties. But I could be proven wrong. I think that, Bayern Munich have done pretty well to get to the quarterfinals this season. I'd love to see them push on and do better. Last season they did really well as well. And I think they're just in that like plateau where they're not really moving forwards in the European scene.
Yeah.
Kind of like, how we talk about Chelsea, and they've really tried to advance themselves to Champions League contenders now with the transfers that they've done. For Bayern Munich to really move forward, I think they would have to make some really world-class signings and show some intent. They obviously desperately miss Georgia Stanway in the middle of the pitch. Who doesn't?
I was going to say that. Who doesn't? You say as an England national team fan. Yeah, everybody does. Perhaps England the most.
Yes, totally do really miss her. And everything she brings to the game, and she's really matured as a footballer since she moved to Germany. And I'm going to throw in a little plug here. I met Georgia Stanway last summer.
Didn't you tell this story on the podcast before?
Yes, I did. But I told her I wanted to come back to New York and give me a tattoo. And I see that she's been doing a lot more tattooing. So, but yeah, like such a nice person, genuine person. But she was really, when she spoke, she said she was enjoying her football so much in Germany and she couldn't really see herself leaving at any point, because I did ask her if she'd consider coming back to the WSL or even to the NWSL, and she said no, she was really enjoying it. So I think that they miss her a lot, and they miss what she
Yeah.
brings in there. Like, she's not only does she bring that like steel mentality in the middle of the pitch where she's going to win a ball, she's not afraid to win a ball, but she can also score goals and drive the team forward. So, yeah, they missed her. And again, I don't think that Munich has the quality to turn this around.
I think you summed it up perfectly when you said they're kind of like Chelsea, where they're making moves to try to make it further in the Champions League, but there's something about the Champions League. It's almost like a World Cup. You just have to know how to win that specific tournament, and we'll come to Chelsea. Game 2 on Wednesday, the one I'm possibly most nervous for, Arsenal hosting Real Madrid. They'll be playing at the Emirates, but down 2-0 to Real Madrid is a big mountain to climb, and we have to talk about the first leg because Arsenal were at Real Madrid. They were down 1-0. That first goal, I think you can really attribute to the pitch quality, which was, I think, the closest thing we've seen to the Gold Cup Canada U.S. Women's National Team puddle pitch. That the closest thing to that I've really ever seen. You can attribute that first goal to the pitch quality, whatever. But Arsenal, at the end of the day, we don't have to analyze that game. I think they made a couple of mistakes. I think there were some substitute mistakes and conceded a second goal. And the difference between coming in to the Emirates down 1-0 in aggregate and down 2-0 in aggregate is massive, in my opinion.
The pitch was, in Ian Wright's words, a effing disgrace. It was a terrible, terrible pitch. We can talk about the weather. You can always talk about the weather and how bad the weather gets and what it does to pitches, but you don't see that in, and we're going to bring it back. You don't see that in men's games. You would not see that in a men's Champions League game, Arsenal versus Real Madrid, if you're playing at the Bernabeu. You're not going to see that. That's not going to happen. So Real Madrid, the richest club in the world, needs to take a really good look at themselves and what they offered their women's team there as a Champions League pitch. It was a disgrace.
Yeah, you asked me if we should, if I wanted to talk about it last week, and I was like, no. And you're like, why not? It needs to be talked about. And I was like, because I'm so sick of talking about these things. Like, what else is there to be said? Well, so I'm glad you said that, because that's what needs to be said. It's
a terrible pitch, and we saw in the League Cup final at Derby County. What pitch was that? That was horrendous as well.
All that needs to be said is exactly what you said, which is the richest club in the world couldn't put out a playable pitch for a Champions League quarterfinal. But with all of that being said, that is not an excuse for Arsenal being down 2-0. I think that they should have just hunkered down and locked down when it was 1-0 and tried to get out of there with possibly a counterattack goal and a draw or a 1-0. They didn't. They went for it. They might pay the price for it. What do you think is coming at the Emirates on Wednesday?
Well, if you'd asked me this before yesterday's El Clasico game, I probably would have said, like, Arsenal might have had a little bit of a chance here to get back into the game. But Real Madrid are going to be absolutely bouncing after that. The first time they've ever beaten Barcelona, and it was at Barcelona, and it was a pretty convincing win. It was 3-1. So we have to talk about how controversial that offside goal was, though. That the Barcelona goal that was called back was absolutely ridiculous. As a professional referee, you can't see that that's onside. I don't know. You don't even need VAR check for that. Seriously.
But you said it. I have to say 18 losses and now 1 win for Real Madrid over Barcelona. I agree. They're coming in bouncing.
They gotta be.
That's everything.
Yeah, that's everything.
Well, that's probably in. Okay, so if you're a Real Madrid fan, or if you play for Real Madrid, this is going to sound like a stupid question initially, but I feel like when you think about it, it might not be. If you could pick one for the season, do you want to advance to the Champions League semis, or do you want to get your first ever win in El Clasico?
That was really a tough one, because I feel like the first win in El Clasico is like historical, and there's such the rivalry between Madrid and Barcelona. The way they celebrated after they won was like they'd won the Champions League, to be honest. It was their Champions League final. Those players will go down in history as the first group of players to ever beat Barcelona. Not only just, like, it wasn't even a home game, it was an away game. They beat them in Barcelona. It's like a huge feat. But, now they also will be thinking, hey, we just beat the best club side in Europe, probably the world. Why couldn't we go on now to win the Champions League?
It could also backfire. You talk about like a Super Bowl hangover too. It could be the kind of thing where your emotions peak so high and then you have such a drop off that it's hard to turn it back around into Emirates on Wednesday.
I mean, I think you're saying that as a hopeful Arsenal fan more than anything else.
I think I'm just saying that as a sports fan who's watched it go both directions, really.
Well, the pitch is going to be much better. It's going to be a really nice playing surface for both
We can
teams
only hope.
to play football, which could be, it could be to Arsenal's betterment, and it could be to their downfall. Maybe Real Madrid might play some nice football. They played some good football yesterday, so Arsenal need the first goal. They need the first goal. And it needs to be early. They can't wait.
Yeah.
It needs to be an early goal and just set out their intentions early on, go for them, and score. And I don't think Arsenal have a big problem with scoring this season. They've scored freely, so that's not their problem. It's lapses at the back. We've seen too much of that. We thought Leah was getting into her rhythm. She's come back, and then she's the one who made the mistake for the goal that made it 2-0. So I think they need to just cut those silly little lapses out of the back and continue I mean, it's the same story with Arsenal. I feel like we talk about this every season. They can score goals, but then they sometimes they'll lose games on a random, like they'll do something ridiculous at the back. So if Arsenal go at them and they score early, we've got a game on. If Madrid continues to hold for a long period of time and they score on the counter attack, done.
It's over.
Yeah,
done. I agree. All right, let's do Thursday. First one is going to be Barcelona, speaking of, versus Wolfsburg. It's 4-1 Barcelona in aggregate. Headed into Barcelona, who are definitely going to have a chip on their shoulder after what just happened to them. It's over for Wolfsburg. It's done.
Done deal.
Period. The end.
No.
This would be the game of all games to go down in the history books of women's club football if Wolfsburg can pull this off.
Yeah, imagine us sitting here next week and being like, oh my gosh, Wolfsburg 5-4.
I would love it. I would love it. No disrespect to Barcelona, but you love an upset.
You do.
Okay, so we are looking at both Germany teams really being just like down and out after the quarterfinals because Bayern have the better chance, but that's a tall task. Down 2 goals going into Lyon. Wolfsburg, it feels basically insurmountable. Wolfsburg have had a tougher season in the Frauen Bundesliga. Bayern at the top of the league right now, and both of them might just be done after the quarterfinals. But we could say the same thing potentially. Oh, no, we couldn't say the same thing about the WSL, actually.
No, we cannot.
We could not because there's 3. And let's get into it. I totally forgot about City. I was just thinking about Chelsea and Arsenal.
City, but no one feels sorry for Manchester
I was like,
City.
well, Chelsea could and Arsenal could also lose. And then I realized that Chelsea could lose to City. Let's do it. So this fourth and final game, it's the one we really all have circled. So this is the 4th of 4 meetings between these two teams over the course of 2 weeks. We've talked about this already on the podcast, but we had all of these circled. And Chelsea, arguably, have won the 2 least important games, and City have won the 1 important one because Chelsea won the Subway Cup. Chelsea this past weekend won in the league at the Etihad, but City won game number 2 between the two of them, which was the first leg of the Champions League quarterfinals. 2-0 is the aggregate that they're going into this game. It'll be played at Stamford Bridge, which I think is a huge benefit to Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still going down 2-0 in aggregate. I just cannot envision a scenario in which Chelsea win the league. Not only win the league, they go undefeated in the league. They win the Subway Cup, but they get knocked out of the Champions League by a City of all teams who most likely won't make the Champions League next year unless they win it this year.
I don't think
it's crazy.
I don't think that Man City is going to hold on to this 2-0 lead. I can't. No. Mm-mm. I think Chelsea will turn it around. I honestly do. And I watched the game this weekend. Obviously, we'll talk about that. But Man City played very well, and they've played very well for periods in games. They've beaten Chelsea 2-0 in the first leg. So, they've done a really nice job of not only scoring 2 goals, but keeping a clean sheet against Chelsea. The only team to have beaten them this season, right, is Manchester City in this game because Van Pastor hasn't lost a game yet. So this was a big deal. But Stamford Bridge on a Champions League night, Manchester City defensively will score. You'll score against them. I think. I mean, I'd say that they did not let
Yeah.
Chelsea score in the last game, but I think I think Chelsea will score against them. Can't see them having a clean sheet again. They miss Alex Greenwood at the back. She's a leader. Without her, it's challenging. We'll say that, and I think that's shown through their inconsistencies in the WSL this season.
Mm-hmm.
But I could definitely see Chelsea coming out and winning this game. And I've said it. There we go. I put it down.
3-2, or you can see them going 2-0, going to overtime. You can see them going 3 goals up in regulation and just winning it on aggregate there in regulation.
I think they'll win 3-0. Yeah, I really do.
Wow.
Big predictions, huh? What do you think?
I mean, I can see it. I think maybe this game will be like a 3-1 Chelsea, because I agree they'll come out huge. There's no question. They're just all of the firepower and all of the scoring power that Chelsea have, they will throw at Manchester City. And at a certain point, there are some goals that will go in. I think maybe it'll be 3-1 at the end of regulation. It'll head to overtime, because it'll end up with a 3-3 aggregate because of that.
I also like that prediction. I think that could happen too. I do.
But I agree with you. This is really not a question of like if Chelsea score goals. They're going to score goals. The question is how many, and how many can City score in response? Is it going to be a shootout?
Oh, if City play the way they played this weekend, which was it was a good game, I think that they will score a goal. They played well this weekend, so that. Yeah, I mean, look at the firepower that Chelsea have got, though. Yeah. This squad is
no Sam Kerr. No Sam Kerr. They did announce Sam Kerr still won't be ready for this game.
Honestly, I don't think that.
I'm not saying that's who you were saying the firepower was, but yeah, it feel like that was recent news. Let's include it.
She wouldn't start games like this anyway. She's nowhere near full fitness, and like we've seen people come back from ACL tears, and it takes them so long to get back to game rhythm, and either like months, 6 months, 8 months before we really see a true Sam Kerr again. I would say. So, but they have such strong squad up front. It's crazy. They don't even need her right now.
I believe Myra Ramirez can do literally anything on this planet that she sets her mind to. Yes.
You got Myra Ramirez, and you got Erin Cuthbert, who's I think banging in goals for fun for Chelsea this season as well. So
I mean, and speaking of coming back from injuries, it's taken Catarina Macario 2 years or so to look at all similar to the form that we were used to seeing her in before the World Cup, before she hurt herself, couldn't go to the World Cup with the U.S., so on and so forth. And we are just now starting to see her come into form. So you have a very healthy Catarina Macario in form as well, that I think is just on the up and up. I would have loved to see Naomi Girma, but I know she's still hurt. All right, that's the last and final game on Thursday. I'm so excited. I have to say I'm more excited for that one than I am for the Arsenal game. Because there's potential heartbreak in the Arsenal game, and you know what? I'm going to say it out loud though. I really hope Chelsea advance to the semis. I'm so sorry, but for what City have done this season, what they've done over the past 5 years, in my mind, they just, and I know you don't take this into account in a soccer game, but they just don't deserve it more than Chelsea does in this moment. Chelsea deserve it way more. But again, it's not like that matters. A reminder to everybody who's in the US, there's no March Madness on Wednesday. So you can watch all the Champions League games. And then just forget about March Madness on Thursday, because it doesn't matter in comparison to these ones. So catch these games Wednesday, Thursday. Let's talk WSL, because if you can believe it, there's only 5 games left in this regular season, which is pretty wild to me. It always seems like it flies, but I think we got to kick it off here, because we just talked about the Champions League. We just talked about Chelsea City. And they had a huge WSL matchup this past weekend that Chelsea ended up taking the win 2-1 at the Etihad. 2 questions on this. First, I feel like let's talk about that game briefly. But 2, I mentioned 5 games left. Chelsea are currently still undefeated in this season. They have left on their schedule West Ham, Crystal Palace, United, Tottenham, and Liverpool to finish this 24-25 campaign. Will they go undefeated?
Yes.
Also, something I should have Googled, has that ever happened?
Maybe, but yes, the answer to the question is they will go undefeated, and I say that as a very sad Manchester United fan. But I think that Man United could potentially pull out a draw, maybe, if we're lucky. But last season, at the end of last season, when United played Chelsea in the last game of the season, it was we needed to, beat them to stand any chance of anything happening. And we got absolutely annihilated. We got battered. It wasn't even close. So I would not predict that Manchester United will beat Chelsea. The most I can hope for is a draw. And then the only other game that I could see them faltering in is Liverpool. But they've kind of had that new manager bounce, and it feels like it might have gone away now after that 4-0 defeat to Arsenal this weekend. So, I could see Chelsea going unbeaten. I can.
They could absolutely tie their win record. The most wins in a season was 19. That was Chelsea in the 22-23 season. Right now they're at 15. So if they even win 4, they'll tie it. If they win out, then they will set a lot of records. I totally agree. I think that it'll happen. And if one team's going to stop them, I think it's going to be United, but I don't think United has it in them, to be totally frank.
Can we just, I'm going to put this question out there. Maybe too early to say it, but if Bompastor surpasses this WSL record and Chelsea win the Champions League, will she be a more successful manager of Chelsea than Emma Hayes was?
No.
No?
Just definitely not. She'll statistically no, and I think in everybody's hearts and feelings, no. But I do think it will. I think it'll put her on the level with Emma Hayes. I think that's what it'll do. I think it'll put them on equal footing. I don't think she'll ever surpass what Emma Hayes has done, but I think it'll put them on equal footing for sure. Which is sad because it's, one season, it's one Champions League. And you look at what Emma Hayes does, and it's so many more than that, but never a Champions League. But I do think it'll put them on equal footing. That's my answer. What do you think?
I agree with what you said about it being. I don't think it's sad, but I think it's realistic in the football world that we live in now. Is that what Emma Hayes had to do when she came into Chelsea was a lot different to what Bompastor has had to do when she's come into Chelsea, and the squad that they've given Bompastor this season for the Champions League is. I mean, I don't know if this was a squad that was really pre-planned and Emma Hayes kind of had already set the wheels in motion here. But I think what she started with at Chelsea, Emma Hayes, and where she left it is a legacy. And what Sonia Van Pastor is doing now won't be considered a legacy. It's not. It will be a huge achievement if Chelsea win the Champions League. Do not get me wrong. As the first English team since Arsenal to do it, which was a long, long, long time ago.
And it'll be Chelsea women's first ever Champions League.
Right.
So she will be written in the history books,
of course,
for sure.
And she's done it before, she's did it at Lyon. So we know she has the caliber and the capacity to do it. But I think that Emma Hayes built a club, built a legacy. Bompastor came into that and has been handed kind of a nice situation. Still has to coach. Yeah. I'm not saying that she's not a good coach, but yes, definitely think that Emma Hayes still is, for me, the better of the two coaches and more successful.
All right, let's go from the top of the table to the bottom, because it's kind of wild at the bottom. Crystal Palace sit with 9 points. Aston Villa just above them with 10. We have to ask the question here. Allie and I talked about it last week, but let's come back to it. Is one more win enough for Aston Villa to feel safe? And when you look at their schedule, Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal, West Ham, and Brighton remain. Who would that win come against? They've won 2 games this entire season so far, which is ridiculous. We'll also talk about Aston Villa because they are the great mystery.
They're really annoying me, to be honest, as a massive club, that how they can be in this position. I mean, they're very similar to West Ham.
And Tottenham. Yes. We have to throw Tottenham in there.
We have to really throw Tottenham in there because Tottenham as a club at the moment is also a bit shambolic. But I'm at a loss with Aston Villa, as we both are, as to understanding what's going on, because they're really backing their women's team in terms of they're playing at Villa Park. I don't know. It baffles me that you can be such poor quality on the pitch and not deliver any results. And they've won 2 games all season. Who are they going to beat in this? If you asked me, I would probably say Tottenham is most likely the team that we could beat.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah. I mean, they're closest to them in the table if you look at it. Tottenham are in 9th with 17 points. For West Ham are doing great. Like, I would not pick West Ham to be the team that Aston Villa beats. I think West Ham will roll over Aston Villa. They sit in 8th with 18 points. And we also have to mention, you said, this is the first season in history that West Ham have won 5 home games in a WSL season. And I think they'll probably prime to win one more at least.
Yeah, and we battered West Ham last season for how poor they've been, and Ali, bless them, defends them. But
yeah,
this season they've done so much better at home, and home form is very, very important for consistency, obviously. But I would love, again, I've said this before, I really love to see West Ham move out of that stadium and be put into a better facility for the women's team, grow the capacity of fans that are showing up to games, give them the opportunity to play in the bigger stadiums, but it'll come hopefully for West Ham. We'll see. But Aston Villa are giving their women's team the opportunity to play at Villa Park, and the results are not there, and it's not great.
West Ham are a team that at least are on the up and up. Aston Villa and Tottenham are two teams. Well, Aston Villa and Tottenham are different. Aston Villa, I don't know how many more times I can say, I will never understand what's going on. To me, it has to just be, there's something that stinks inside there. I don't know where the toxicity is coming from, but it's somewhere in there. Tottenham are very, very plain and simple. You have the funds, you have the ability to do it, and you're not doing it. That's their problem. Two very different problems, two very similar results.
Yeah, I agree. And Tottenham may be the more disappointing of the clubs with
very much so.
Yeah, with what they're working with there. So we can continue to have these conversations year after year, I feel like. And the one shock is that Crystal Palace, one thing that is not a shock is that Crystal Palace are bottom of the league because they were the newly promoted team. But Aston Villa, I would not be surprised if Aston Villa went down. I would not.
All right, before we move on from the WSL, we have to spend a moment to applaud one of our favorite young up-and-coming players, Grace Clinton.
Oh, Grace Clinton. What are you doing, 40-yarder? But I want to say...
Should I say something that's going to piss everybody off?
No, because I want to say it was a foul before. It definitely was a foul.
That's not what I was going to say.
No, what were you
I was going to say she pulled a Carly Lloyd.
Oh, get out of it. No one wants to hear that name. Stop it. You're going to start talking about Alexi Lallis in a minute as well, aren't you?
No.
Okay, all right. It was a foul before the goal, I'll say that. Definitely pulled the girl's shirt, and they were not happy about it. But what a strike. Just the ability to execute that is so tough from 40 yards out to lob the keeper.
Chipping the goalkeeper from midfield basically is insane. Yeah.
It is accurate like that. I mean, she's such an up-and-coming player. If Manchester United don't make moves to keep her, I'm going to be so annoyed. And you can see my face right now that I'm like super frustrated by this club. But they need to keep hold of their best players, and we've seen it time and time again where they just don't care and don't give a fuck basically about keeping the best players that they've got, and they don't treat them well. So Grace Clinton is a future England player, future England star. The midfield trio of Stanway, Clinton, and Walsh is exciting. And now Ella Toone is back.
Well, now without Stanway, also I was going to say, Grace Clinton isn't a future England star. She could very well be the present for the Euros.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she's definitely put herself in there. There's not many other players who are playing as well as she is in the centre of the pitch. And I think, and again, I just said about Ella Toone. Ella Toone has had a really good season. She's
unexpected,
very unexpected, but also I think it helps that she's scoring goals consistently for her confidence, and I love that for her, and I hope that she brings that form into the Euros as well, because Man United is not going to win anything this season, so she's going to have to push forward with England, and I'm excited to see where Ella Toone can go from this point. This might be a spring for her.
I hope Ella Toone goes far, and I hope United, Arsenal, and City all get something together, because Chelsea have completely run away with this league. It was over in December, and it's certainly over now. Let me do some quick math. 8 points. So technically it's not statistically over, because Arsenal and United both sit with 39 points. Chelsea sit 8 points ahead with 5 games left. Technically, it's not over, but it may as well be.
Well, I mean, one of those clubs needed to take points off of Chelsea, and none of us have really taken points off of Chelsea. So it's like,
Yep.
how are we ever going to compete if we don't actually beat Chelsea at some point? And Manchester United beats Chelsea, Arsenal beats Chelsea, and the City beats Chelsea once in the season. It makes it way more interesting, but none of us have done that.
Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world. To Germany, Bayern sit atop the league 6 points clear of second place Eintracht Frankfurt and Wolfsburg, who sit locked on points at 38. Sitting just behind them in fourth place is Leverkusen, who are making a run for that third and final Champions League spot. Bayern and Leverkusen will face off this Sunday. To Mexico, America sit in first with 35 points, followed by Pachuca with 33 and Tigres with 29. First place America and third place Tigres faced off on Saturday, with America taking it 2-1 over Tigres. And finally to France, Lyon sit atop the league with 52 points. They are 10 points clear of second place PSG and 11 points clear of third place Paris FC. It will be a battle for second between PSG and Paris FC, as Lyon are alone at the top, and the rest of the pack cannot catch up to third place. And finally, let's talk NWSL. It's the start of the NWSL season. Dare I ask this question? Do you have a preference of league right now? NWSL or WSL?
WSL.
Always.
Always. I'm sorry, yeah. I mean, I think the mass exodus of players from the NWSL this season has spoken volumes about it, but, yeah.
I don't want to say this, but I will. For me, recently, it's been the WSL. I'm not going to lie. And there's a difference. There's a difference, though. Like, I'd rather watch any given NWSL game than 2 bottom-of-the-table teams or a top and a bottom of the table team in the WSL. But if you give me the option between watching 2 top-of-the-table teams in the WSL compete or any NWSL game, I'm going to watch the 2 top-of-the-table teams in the WSL because that's just the highest quality game that we can find. With that being said, I'm so sorry, NWSL fans. Don't take offense to that. Let's talk about the NWSL because it's still really exciting. A lot has gone on just at the start of this campaign. 2 games in, you've got 2 teams only that remain 2 wins, 0 losses. And that's, of course, Orlando and Kansas City. We have a few other teams that are, quote, undefeated, which means they either have a win and a draw or they have 2 draws. Angel City has 2 draws, so they're technically undefeated. But then also Bay FC, San Diego Wave, and Seattle Reign, all 1 win, 1 draw. The only 0-2 team is Chicago, but that's not a surprise to anybody who's been watching the NWSL. They're even worse. They're way worse than I thought. I'm not going to lie. But we're going to start with Gotham for a lot of reasons. Number 1, because they hosted Orlando this weekend. Number 2, because you were at that game. Number 3, because we both know a lot about Gotham. Number 4, because Gotham is a very interesting entity right now in this season for a lot of on and off the field reasons. I don't even know where to begin because I want to talk about the game, but I feel like we unfortunately have to talk about the bad stuff first and then we'll get on to the fun stuff because it came out on Monday that there was an incident with a fan at the Gotham game. I didn't know what happened. You found what happened, Amy. Would you tell the people?
Yeah, so this obviously has just come out on social media today, Monday, when we're recording, that a fan or some fans were removed from the stadium for, it can't even be said to be transphobic because Barbara Banda is not a trans person. So, but it was, very discriminatory. And basically what was said was, I guess a foul occurred and this fan in the stand shouted, "She shouldn't even be on the pitch," to Barbara Banda. And I don't know where we're going with this in women's football. I mean, in general, in the world, but in women's football, this seems to be popping up and the theme seems to be Barbara Banda for some reason. And it happened at the League Cup final in England. There was a protest and it linked back to Barbara Band, which I did not understand at all either.
It's not like she was playing in the game or anything.
Nope,
Yeah.
not even there. So, first of all, incredibly disappointing
Yeah.
that this happened because fans of women's football go to the games because it's not the same atmosphere as a men's game. That's clear. Lots of people feel safe there. It's a safe space for everybody, right? All folks, LGBTQ plus families. It's just a nicer environment to be in. You don't have to be subjected to lots of cursing, abuse at the referees, abuse at whatever it is. It's a much less hostile environment than a men's game. I've been to plenty of men's games, obviously, growing up, but it's a nicer environment. It's supposed to be that way. Now, what we're seeing is this creeping in of this culture, which is not acceptable. And obviously, this fan was removed from the stadium. And personally, myself, I was standing in front of a guy who, when Anne-Catherine Berger went down injured, was screaming at her that she is soft, needs to get up, and
What in the world?
and honestly, I got really annoyed, and I said to my friend, "This guy needs to stop because I'm going to say something in a minute." But I think the security actually removed him as well. He's supposed to be a Gotham fan and is actively berating the goalkeeper for being soft, which was not the case.
Is also pretty sexist too, if you think about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally misogynistic and not necessary. Bearing in mind, men throw themselves on the floor and roll around after they've barely been touched in games. So, yeah, I found that to be disturbing for me personally, that this guy was becoming so aggressive for no reason at our goalkeeper. But then to find out that this had happened in another part of the stadium, and Taylor Hines had the same thing happen to her recently in a game, and it's got to stop.
I mean, we've seen this with Bunny Shaw in the WSL. It's the point I think also that you're making is like, it's not just the NWSL. This is everywhere. It's across the world, and I agree, it has to stop. Barbara Banda she's a dark-skinned cis black woman who gets harassed by racist people who I don't even believe are soccer fans, but let's just say racist people, not fans, for not really looking how they want her to look. And at first I was like, it's really heartbreaking that people would show up really like under the guise of watching soccer in this safe space with young fans and then attack her. And then I realized that's not at all what's happening. You want to know what's happening? You can look at the WNBA season from last year, and it's the exact same copy-paste of what happened. At some point in time, there was something that tapped into the deep-seated racism of this country, of the world, and we'll also say transphobic as well, because I think that exists as an undertone or an overtone or whatever it is. And people actively come to the games to be hateful. It's not fans. They're not there to watch the game. They're coming to the games to be hateful. And the WNBA didn't even do a job. Like, they didn't even try to contain it last year. And I feel like as a soccer fan, I was sitting here saying, that is coming for soccer. I don't know in what timeline, whether it's next year or the next 5 years, but that exact thing is coming for soccer. Where it explodes, everybody wants to come to the games, and suddenly this safe space is no longer one, because mainly people are coming in either who haven't been a part of that community or are coming in to harass people specifically in that community. And if the NWSL doesn't get a hold of this quickly, it is going to spiral completely out of control.
It's sad. I just feel genuinely sad that this is what's happening, and I really hope that they can, but I don't trust the NWSL as far as I could throw them, so I don't have any hope that they will do a good job of it, because they don't do a good job of many things.
Yeah.
So hoping that we don't see more of this, but the likelihood is we will.
To bring it to bring it around, as we're sitting here saying we want the NWSL to do something, let's come up with very concrete, like, what can the NWSL do? It sounds like the security was very on it, throwing people out of the stadium and so on and so forth. But there needs to be more public facing information or just something more public facing that the NWSL can do that can try to mitigate this before it happens. Because the goal isn't to remove fans after they make these comments. The goal is to stop these comments from being made. And maybe that's not possible, but at least you can stop more of it if you do the right things. But genuinely asking, like, what should the NWSL do right now?
Well, the NWSL is an obligation for education, right? Like, you have to educate people. You cannot just sit back and be like, okay, this is an isolated incident. It's not an isolated incident. We know it's not. So you have an obligation to educate people, educate the fans that are coming into the stadium. You have an obligation on social media to put these things out there so people can see them. You have an obligation at stadiums to get people out there. Let people know that these are the communities that exist and have existed in women's sports spaces forever. We are the people who started the women's sports spaces because we didn't have any spaces to go to. So we can't be the people who then become ostracized and not comfortable in our own spaces.
The NWSL, the NWSL Players Association, Orlando Pride, and Gotham all released statements on social media. And they all said something relatively similar, which was, we condemn this. We're looking into it. There's an investigation. That fan was removed, blah, blah, blah. But never once does it say what actually happened. Do you think that it might be helpful for these statements to actually include the incident so people know what's going on? Like, for me, watching the game, seeing these statements, I would have no idea what actually happened. I can assume because Barbara Banda was there, and unfortunately, that's just the most likely assumption. But do you think it would be more helpful to include what actually happened and say this is unacceptable? Yeah,
I guess exactly. It makes it more seen, and it could be seen as a positive, like, okay, we're getting it out there, this is what actually happens, and it could be seen as a negative.
We're giving
also.
Copycats ideas.
Right, exactly. And also, how do the players feel seeing that being put out there? How does Barbara Banda feel about this being out there as something that was said? Like, it's hurtful to see that. It's hurtful for the communities of people who, are part of, like I said before, the LGBTQIA plus community. It's tough to see those things written, but also it does need to be shared that this happened, and it can't just be swept under the rug as something that is being dealt with internally, and we never really get something. We never hear like what happened, what's the end result, how did you do these processes, what happened that you made this decision in the end. And I think there needs to be more transparency about how they're doing that versus here's what was actually said.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea. All right, so let's move on to the lighter topic, which is the game itself. Let's talk about it, because when you told me you're going to the Gotham game, I immediately was like, oof, that's going to be a tough one because they're playing Orlando. And to be fair, it's kind of tough for anybody when Orlando comes into town. So it's not entirely just Gotham. Orlando take it 2-0. One was an own goal and one was a penalty kick scored by Marta. So technically, Orlando never actually scored in the run of play.
Yeah.
How did you feel like Gotham played against Orlando? How did you feel like each team fared, actually? Let's talk about both of them.
Well, it's a very tough start for Gotham.
Yeah.
Immediately off the bat, you've conceded an own goal, and then you're up against it. And I felt for
in the second minute, mind you.
I felt for Real. I mean, on your debut too, your home debut is tough, and a young player too. So not ideal start for Gotham. And there was a big crowd at the game.
Biggest in home opener history for Gotham, over 9,000.
And I obviously went to the game, and I was there beforehand. There was a huge tailgate party. I would say there was over 100 people there, organized by. I'm going to give a shout out because I have to give a shout out to.
Do it.
Athena Kiki's, which is a new bar that's going to be opening, a women's sports bar in New York. They put on the best women's sports events. They don't currently have the location up and running yet, but they are going to have it up and running by May. But they do host a lot of women's sports parties around the city, which is great. So they put on a really great tailgate. So really appreciate them. But so it's a big crowd, and you know me, I'm not a huge fan of going out to Red Bull Arena, but it was nice that
We've talked about Red Bull and how Gotham need a stadium in Brooklyn. Red Bull Arena, I thought it was called like Sports Illustrated Arena now. Didn't they change it? It doesn't matter. Red Bull Arena, in my opinion, is one of the hardest stadiums to actually get like a vibe going, to actually feel something in the air. Did you feel something watching with the 9,000 other people?
Well, interestingly enough for me, is the first time I was right by Cloud9, the supporters club. I was in standing
Nice.
seats for the first half, which I enjoy. As a football fan, I want to stand up, I want to sing and stuff. So
Yeah.
it was nice to be near them, and they were trying to generate an atmosphere. I'm not a huge fan of the drumming. I'd rather they just sang, but that's whatever. That's their preference. So it's tough to generate an atmosphere in that stadium, though. I will say I moved in the second half to the opposite side of the pitch, and again, not a great atmosphere. But at that point, Gotham was 2-0 down, so not really much to get excited about. I did see Marta's goal. I was behind the goal for both goals, actually. I was behind the goal for Marta's penalty, so I didn't think it was a penalty, and there was a very long VAR check, so I didn't see it, like, because they don't show the VAR replays in the stadium. So I don't really know if there was a touch on the player, or it was deemed to be a penalty. So I guess it was, but after that, it was game over. I mean, I couldn't.
Yeah. You can't come back from that right now. I mean, there was the whole second half, but against Orlando, who get a lot of credit for their offense, but don't get enough credit for how good their defense was. Defense wins championships, and certainly the defense won them the championship last year because they were absolutely locked down. When you look at the stats here in this game, though, Amy, Gotham had 15 shots to Orlando 6, 4 shots on target each. Gotham dominated possession with 60% of it, like 6 corners for Gotham to 2 for Orlando. When you look at the statistics, it really paints a picture that Gotham were dominant. Would you say that's true?
No. Because, okay, what's the point? Possession, who cares? Like, if you don't actually do anything with it, then what's the point? Orlando on the counter-attack was scary. Honestly, every time they got the ball, I thought they were going to score, because Barbara Bander's pace is electric. And just Sonnet looks like she was struggling every single time. And yeah, I mean,
who doesn't against Barbara Banda?
Yeah, I just didn't think that Gotham had really looked like they were going to score at any point. I obviously we have some firepower up there. We have Esther and we have Ella Stevens, and those are good players. I can't wait to see Midge Purse actually come back and start playing again. But I think we lost Jasmine Ryan, and that was a big piece. We lost Lynn Williams. That was a huge piece also. So I think that those players could have made a difference yesterday if we'd had them as an option. I don't know, I'm not really sold on the central midfield.
On Neely Martin specifically, or Jaylene Howell?
Both. Don't know if they're like world class. We don't have anyone world class in there to really run the show, in the middle of the pitch. I think we should.
What do you expect from Gotham this year? Not a lot.
No.
Amy's shaking her head no.
No, I don't expect much. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. So
where do you think they'll... Okay, you don't think they'll make the playoffs?
No, I don't. I think that they're going to struggle a lot this season. I mean, I hope that I'm wrong. I really do. But the mass exodus of players... I mean, they just signed Jace from Man United today. So
yep.
I don't think that that's a sign that's going to turn it around, though, to be honest. She was treated terribly by Manchester United, which is no surprise, but
it was no shock when she left whatsoever.
No, they tried to loan her out when she was at her. I think her brother died. When her brother died, they tried to loan her while she was gone at his funeral. I can't tell you how bad this club is. It's
despicable. I think that we know this is the club that kicked the women out of their training facility so the men could have one, and put the women in like makeshift trailers as a facility. So it's no surprise.
They didn't know who Katie Zellum was, the captain of the club.
That's ridiculous. I mean, she's also going to a club that, I'm not going to lie, they've made some noise in this offseason for some off-the-field stuff that still nobody entirely has a grasp on. We know Lynn Williams has said that she left the club for off-the-field reasons, but never said anything else about what those off-the-field reasons were. If you would have looked at it from the outside, you would have thought, oh, she's probably leaving for the on-the-field reasons, because she I don't think that playing style or being at Gotham was really conducive to her growing as a player. But no, she specifically came out and said it was off-field reasons. I'm sorry. I said Williams. Biandolo.
I mean, the other players that also left, the Crystal Dunn left, it's...
Yeah.
yeah, it's something happened there, and we obviously don't know about it, but maybe it'll come out eventually. Is the hope.
More transparency is what we need from the
We need
NWSL.
more transparency. We really do.
We really do. I mean, we talked about what's going on with BFC on the last episode. We won't get into it now. That needs some transparency as well, and credit to everybody who dug into that story at the Chronicle. All right. Anything else on the NWSL, Amy? Any team in particular piquing your interest right now?
Oh, I think, well, obviously Orlando is a team that's exciting, and I wonder if they could potentially retain the title again this season. I think that they're set up so well, and they didn't lose anybody significant, and I like the coach. I think he has the players backing, and that's super important, as we've seen. If the players aren't backing you as the coach, the manager, then and there's something toxic going on, you can see it. It's like it's there, right? I'm excited to see what San Diego might be able to do.
I'm very confused by San Diego, to be totally honest, but it makes me intrigued to watch them. I don't expect much or anything from them this year with the exodus that we saw from them.
Yeah.
Jonas Eidevall in the NWSL, what do we expect from that?
I'm interested
also
to
not
see
entirely sure.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Jonas is going to do over there. That's really what I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they're playing Orlando this coming there's going to be a lot of fun games. Washington Spirit Bay FC Friday night. That's a rematch of the semifinal I think it was the semifinal from last year's playoffs. Also Houston and Gotham on Friday night. I think that'll be fun because I think Houston's going to beat Gotham, which will be interesting. And then Saturday is Orlando hosting San Diego. And that'll be the biggest test. That's when we'll actually see what San Diego are made of this year, because they opened against Angel City. No disrespect to Angel City. And then they played Utah, which was a thrilling game. They beat Utah 3-2. Utah is one of the more exciting teams to watch right now, but they're up and coming. It's not like they're a top of the table team. So we're about to see what San Diego is really made of and what Jonas Eidevall is really made of.
I think that the one team that has to push on and try and win it this year is Kansas City, just because of the investment they have in that team there and the facilities. And I think that there's going to be more pressure on them than anybody else this season.
I think you're right. And for those of you wondering, because I know that you're wondering, the first time that Kansas City and Orlando play is May 16th at Orlando.
Get it in the calendar.
Circle it. Not that far away.
It's going to be a thriller. 15-goal thriller, probably.
Just let Barbara, Banda, and Shoinga play 1v1 and see what happens.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so fun, wouldn't it? Full field 1v1.
Yeah. Or just World Cup style. Remember Cuppies?
Yep. We called it Wembley in England, not Cuppies.
Okay, we called it Cuppies.
What the hell?
I don't know
why. What was Cuppies?
Well, we wouldn't call it Wembley. Why would we call it Wembley?
What's Cuppies, though?
It's World Cup, but shortened for Cuppies.
Okay, yeah. You Americans love an abbreviation.
Yeah, I love a good abbreviation. Almost as much as the Aussies.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for us here this week at the Women's Soccer Show. Amy, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And everybody tune back in, of course, every Wednesday. We'll be back next Wednesday, hopefully to discuss Arsenal advancing into the Champions League semifinals.
Prayers up.
Let's see how well that ages.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.